And I checked, and it definitely meets the legal requirement of that statement. This is my first solo comedy show, so thank you all for coming along. And while this is all definitely true, it is, I will warn you ahead of time, one lie. It is sort of required, or else the whole show falls apart. So just bear with me. If you spot it, well done. Shut the fuck up. I've been doing comedy now for 2.5 years. Like 2 years if you don't count like coronavirus time. So I'm still pretty new at this. Unless you ask my dad, in which case I've always been a fucking joke. It's fine, I hate my father. I've only ever met one of the Keegan in my life. And I have to say, I fucking hate the both of us. So it's a pretty unique name, and it's sort of led me into troubles a couple of times, because I feel like most people, when they hear something similar to their name or their name, they're pretty used to it because it's like fairly common names we see a lot. But with me, it triggers like a flight or fight response in me, where I am suddenly just hyper aware when I hear anything that even remotely sounds like my name. One of my therapists said it's like an auditory trigger to like a extreme reactionary response. I'd like to call it my ninja reflexes. But yeah, if I'm out in public, if I hear my name, I sort of like freak out like a cat that doesn't know what's back, like just rolls around and might hurt itself and think, oh shit. Keegan, oh no, is it the CIA? Did they know what I did in Cuba? Keegan, oh, is it the Illuminati? Did they know I tricked them and they don't exist? Keegan, is it the Ottomans? I know what you say you're thinking, and I refuse to recognize Turkey as a country. I said it. The reason I'm telling you this is it pertains to the first story I want to tell you guys. I'm just trying to make sure this is on track. I was in a mall not that long ago. You know what? I'm going to call that curtain here. Like a common comedy thing that stand-up comedians do, where they say like, I was doing this last week, not that long ago. It's a trick to bring the audience into the now, to like make them present in here, and they're imagining the story along with you. No, like to tell you the truth, this actually happened. The winter of 1936 outside of Belarus. I was in a mall. And I heard my name being shouted. It was very different from the way I usually hear my name said in public, which is like I could be getting an order, in which case it's sort of like the order for Keegan. I was like a minimum wage worker, and I feel their pain, but honestly, my name is more exciting than that. Or the authoritative, Keegan, stop, it's the police, you won't get away this time. I always do. But this time it was weird, it was like an excited calling of my name, and I was surprised and shocked. So naturally I went into my ninja reflexes mode, and I was spinning around looking for the source of it. And something happened that might be unique in all the world. Do you guys know what shoulder checking is? Yeah, it's the sort of thing that like douchebag alpha males do to let you know that they're a douchebag alpha male. Where they'll like go up to you in a bar or like a cafe or a swimming pool, and like just trying to let you know that they know that they're intimidated by your presence. And they'll like bump into you with their shoulder to like knock you over, maybe make you spill a drink or something. Doesn't really work on me. I have a lot of maps, they tend to just bounce off. There's also head checking, which is my favourite, especially when there's like a child running around, you're just like fucking bang. Oh no, Timmy, you fell over, didn't you? I just want to make something clear, because it actually came up in the show one time. I do not support abusing children. Like, just make that clear. But like kids around me, I'm like a horse. I have a cone of vision because of my stomach. I can't see beyond. So if a child is running around and I can't see them, I will get spooked and start kicking. Okay? Just forewarning. So I was at the mall, I hear my name, I spin around, and something hits the side of my stomach. And what might be the first instance outside of a sumo ring of stomach checking. And I feel something bounce off and land behind me. And I turn and I look, and lying on the ground with a couple of shopping bags sprawled with her is the girl, now woman, I had a crush on in high school. I might have had a mild panic attack at this point. And I've gone into a state I like to call a premavision. My doctor calls it an auditory and visual hallucination brought on by extreme stress. I said that's funny last words. So I was standing there and I sort of like had this out of body experience where I imagine what could happen when I see the future, what will happen if I take a certain path. And like I would go up to her, I'd offer her my hand, I'd help her pick up her shopping, I'd make her laugh, I'd make a joke, make sure it's like my fault or hers, go and have a coffee. She'd tell me that she was recently broken up with her long-time boyfriend. I would tell her that I am fine, completely lying. Then there'd be a montage to like some early 2000s, late 90s power ballad like Say Tonight by Eagle-Eye Cherry, or like maybe 4 AM by Matchbox 20, or Backstreet's Back by NSYNC. And like as this montage is happening, I'm helping her set up her bakery, and she's got a bakery because it's moving in my head. And she's helping me get over my tremendous amount of mental and emotional issues, because Hollywood has taught me that's a fair exchange. And at the end of this montage, I'm suddenly get a phone call. It's opening day, the bakery's packed, I get a phone call, and I'm just like, yeah. Oh, he is? No, I don't think I will. Bye. And she'll be like, who's that? I'm like, oh, my dad's in hospital. And she's like, you better see him, right? I go like, nah. She'd go like, I don't know if you're the person I thought you were. And I would leave. And then we'll probably have some like sad music playing, like I Want It That Way with extra verse. And I'd see things that would remind me of my dad, like a child lived alone in the rain. Or a child being used as collateral at a drug deal. Or a child being used as collateral at a brothel. Or a child being used as collateral at a dairy. Honestly, the dairy was the worst of the three. That didn't need work. Also, he left me there for 6 hours, which was longer than the other two. Anyway, and I'll go and see him. And he'd be in the hospital, and he'd look up at me, and he's like, Keegan, you've always become the man I knew you could. And I'd look down at him, and I'd just go, shh. And then I'd go back and see her, and she'd be like, did you see your dad? I'd be like, yeah. Everything's cool now. and then it would pull out, and it'd be like end credits. And it would leave you sort of like up to your interpretation if we were in a relationship or we were just platonic friends, because it's a Hipster movie and they refuse to make decisions. Like, have some balls in your art, fucking make a choice. Oh, the Ewan's interpretation. Fuck you, J.J. Abrams. Is he the one that did Inception? They're all white men anyway. Basically the same person. And then what in reality was happening was I was standing there. Say tonight, let's fight the break of tomorrow. Tomorrow I'll be gone. She's still on the ground. I look around. A crowd has gathered. The normal cacophony of voices in my head that offer me advice at any one time including the confusing German ones that I can't understand because I don't speak German, is silent, except for the one with the Cockney accent. I will never listen to the one with the Cockney accent, but he's the only one offering me advice. So I do it. And here's what I did. I go up to her and I offer her my hand. I lift her to her feet, I put her hands around my waist, I suplex myself, get pinned for the 3 count, pull up my master and realize my brother Horatio Vincentio III, the Earl of Winchester, the entire time. The moral of the story is, don't come up to me in public. It won't go well for either of us. So my show was sort of made up of like individual bits, and I was trying to come up with a way of transitioning between them easily and cleanly, and I couldn't come up with anything, so I decided to go with something really stupid instead. So in between each like story or bit, I'm gonna tell you guys a little known fact. Yeah, Gary. The thing about these little known facts is none of them are true. And I need to tell you this because at some point someone's going to think, oh, that's interesting. Well, I didn't know that was true. It's not, and I've told you it's not. I'll tell you several times it's not, but I'll be in a conversation with someone. I said, this isn't true. Told them the fact, and they went at the end, they went, that's interesting when you think about it. I'm like, it's not, because it's not true. And they went, what do you mean it's not true? I'm like, I told you, I'm just really convinced. I turned the microphone on. Magic. That might not be the only instance of magic. Watch it closely. First little known fact. Every year, approximately 9 manatees drown because they forget to breathe. Upon discovering this, the marine biologist who had specialised in studying manatees quit and became a bartender, and he said that they're much, much happier now because there was like this mysterious death that had been happening to manatees and they couldn't figure out what was happening. The seemingly healthy manatees would just drown. And they observed one of them one day, and it was just minding its own business in the bottom of a tank, and then it started looking distressed and confused, and then it died. And then they realized, fuck, these things are dumb. So that's your little known fact. Just going to take a drink of water while I'm trying to remember what the next bit is. Remember that that's not water. That's what I call a 50-50. It's half gin and half vodka. 100% mistake. Not because of the alcohol burn, but because they seem to go down my throat at different rates. Like one of them clearly went down a lot faster than the other, and I was just very confused. This isn't helping at all. Oh yeah, the album. So we've all had to deal with men who, in our lives, I feel like, we've all had to deal with men, fuck's sake. But specifically, we've all had to deal with men in our lives who make the genital size our problem. And that you get these guys who act a certain way, and you just sort of like clock in your head, oh, this guy's got a small dick. And it's unfair because, like, in reality, the size of your penis shouldn't dictate anything about you, and you should find a partner who likes you either for that or not really in spite of that, but like if sex is a big component of your relationship, you should probably be compatible. And if someone makes you feel bad about the size of your genitalia or anything about them, you should probably move on from that relationship. However, if you're going to make it my problem, don't. I seem to have really terrible taste in men, however, because this one time I was with a guy, and it turned out that he wasn't just a douchebag, he also had a small penis. And he was just like, I was giving him oral, and he was just like, yeah, choke on it. And I was just like, thinking to myself, if I bit it off and turned it sideways, it wouldn't touch the sides of my throat. Yeah, so I am bisexual. I recently came out to my family, and by came out to my family, I made a post on Facebook. I'm a coward. My mum actually came up to me, like, because I didn't see her for like 2 days afterwards, and then she was just like, do we need to talk about anything? And I'm just like trying to think, no. And then she's like, the post on Facebook, and I'm like, oh, did you want to talk about it? And she's just like, no, I just want you to let you know that I love you no matter what. And I'm like, yeah, you don't know half the shit I've done. But as, so she was on by now, and we used to do this thing when I'd bring home a female friend to like board game or hang out, whatever, where she would like go, oh, she's nice. And I would be like, yeah, that's why we're friends. Friends. She'd be like, does she have a partner? So, but now she does this for all my guy friends as well. And the couples. And I've had to have the awkward conversation with my mum that being bisexual is not the same as being polyamorous. Which is not something I thought I'd ever have to do. But as a bisexual, I have not a unique insight, but certainly a rare one when it comes to like oral sex. And I just want to let you, the guys know in the audience, giving a blowjob is definitely harder. Okay? It's 100%. Like it's sort of the difference between attempting to swallow a banana, which is like a very physically demanding thing, I think we can all agree. And like, diffusing a bomb. Diffusing a bomb is definitely physically easier. Unfortunately, sometimes the bomb maker doesn't know how to defuse it either, because society has told her that she shouldn't know. Makes things very awkward. Although sometimes you get to know a bomb very well and you're very good at diffusing it, and then it just fucking changes. And the bomb maker's just like, I don't know, it's just not working anymore. You're like, what do you mean it's not working? That has always worked. But if I'm being real honest, I 100% prefer diffusing bombs. I would diffuse 1,000 bombs before I got fucking banana juice in my eye one more time. So swinging back around to like dealing with alpha male guys, the whole reason for the section is I was at a swimming pool not that long ago. And this one was actually not that long ago. It was only like 6 months, not 60 years. And I'm very self-conscious when I swim because I know I swim really weird. Because a friend did a thing where they recorded me swimming and was like, look, you swim like a dickhead. Because I don't kick at all. So like the back half of my body is just like submerged as I'm just like reaching myself through the water. And it looks ridiculous. And I didn't know that. I thought I was a good swimmer because I'm kind of okay. I'm a medium lane swimmer, you know. I could be fast, so there's a lot of slow people in the medium lane, but I'm not a slow lane person. Well, there's anything wrong with that, I'm just not. And I'm proud of it. But yeah, so now I know that I swim weird, and I'm super self-conscious about that fact. So I was in the pool, and I was in the medium lane. There was this guy, you don't usually get lapped in the medium lane. Because like, mostly people are sort of out of sync enough that even if they're faster than you, you'll probably complete 2 lengths and then they'll like pass you at the end and it'll be fine. This guy kept passing me in the middle of the lane, waiting until we were both finished a set and then he'd give me a look and then start again. And I was just like, oh, he knows I swim like a dickhead. But that turned out wasn't the issue. He was trying to prove that he was better than me. at swimming in a public pool in the middle of the morning on a Wednesday. And this didn't click at all until like the fifth time when I feel someone grab my leg and pull me under the water and he swam over top of me. And then it clicked in my head, oh, he's not just a fast swimmer, he's a dickhead. So I was like, I came to the end of the lane and I was just like, trying to think of what to do. And when I'm seriously thinking, I just sort of steer into the middle distance. Not anything in particular. Just never blinking. Just looking. And I didn't realise that he kept crossing my eye line as I was doing this in the pool. And it wasn't until like he completed his third length and got out on the opposite side to where all his stuff was and left all the stuff behind did I realise that I had intimidated him. It was a bit awkward. Yeah, we're rocking out. And that was the last time he saw me. It wasn't the last time I saw him, however. Last time I saw him was he was sinking into a dark lake. And I know what you're thinking, hey, did you submit to killing someone? No. I checked. I cannot be legally held responsible for how long other people hold their breath. Facts. Also, little known fact. Platypuses are the only mammal that can't feel love. I don't think I'm sad about it, because I don't know about it. Lots of mammals might choose not to feel love or feel dickheads, looking at you fucking monkeys. But yeah, no, they're because it's sort of a weird evolutionary nonsense that happened in Australia, they're missing like the key mammal, whatever, that makes us feel love and affection. Even some birds have it, but like, not platypuses. It's one of the reasons they sweat milk. Yeah. Because the baby platypuses, the mother's just like, yeah, whatever, fuck you. So they have to like chase her down and like lap up the milk from her sweat so they can survive because she doesn't care if they live or die. Fuck, I hate Australia. It's such a garbage continent. It's not even a continent, but it's too big to be an island. It's like, for fuck's sake, it's got such ridiculous animals and spiders and snakes and shit. And then also Australians. There's like one good thing about Australia, and that's Uluru. It's a fucking massive rock in the middle of nowhere, and no one's quite sure how it got there. And it's really close to the geographical centre of Australia. It's fucking sweet. Because like the native Australians are just like, yeah, it's our sweet rock. And all the white Australians are like, yeah, but how did it get there? Was there like a glacier that brought it over from like the mountains? No, it's just always been there. Was there a volcano? No, it's just a rock. It's a cool rock. It's an important rock, but no, it's just always been there. It's fucking great. I like really weird stuff. I hate platypuses, love Uluru. What but music can save humanity's soul? Just a little bit of philosophy there for me. Fucking hate philosophers though. Just worthless pieces of shit. I don't know why I get so mad at them. I think it's just their whole, I'm going to propose a moral argument that there's no right answer to, and the whole trick is that you're secretly racist. And it's just like, no. I mean, I probably unconsciously have biases, but fuck off. Don't make me confront them in a dumb trolley situation. I'll jump off the fucking trolley, it's not my responsibility. But yeah, I think there's like this sort of like, and I know what some of you are thinking, Keegan, you're trying to be a stand-up comic. How are you adding to society more than philosophers? And I just like look at you and go, fucking think about that question. Fucking really, philosophers? Let me give you a hierarchy of like importance of jobs. Okay, the roof. We've got nurses, doctors, teachers, and like maybe firemen. A little bit down from that, we've got like, I don't know, delivery drivers, like grocery workers, people who like are important to the food chain. Not that food chain, the other one. Humans are bad for a food chain. And then like here we've got like professional singers and musicians, and like here we've got like I don't know, poets. Then here we've got stand-up comics. Then here we've got people who call themselves poets. Two very different things. And then here we've got improvisers. I'm only saying it because there's one primary. And then here we've got fucking philosophers. And the floor is police officers. Fuck the police. The reason I sort of bring up philosophy is I was thinking about like opposites, because I feel like a lot of people are wrong about what an opposite is. A lot of people think that an opposite is just the absence of the thing. Like darkness isn't the opposite to light, right? Because light is a thing and darkness is just not that thing. 0 isn't the opposite of 1, -1 is, right? Not fire is not the opposite of fire. Water is. You know, a vacuum isn't the opposite of air. Water is. I don't know, fire is not the opposite of earth. Water is. Water is a surprising amount of things opposites. I've done the math. Magnesium, water. Children, water. Fucking, yeah, no, seriously, human children will explode if you put them in water. It's surprising. And I was thinking about love, because a lot of people think that like hate is the opposite of love. That's just so simplistic. Humans can feel more than one emotion towards a person at a time. You can love someone and hate them, so they can't be opposites. And indifference isn't the opposite to love, because that's just the absence of any feeling towards someone. So what is the opposite to love? I hear you ask, though none of you did. It would have been a great moment for some audience interaction. Though I hadn't encouraged it up to this point, so I don't know why you would have. It would have seemed rude. No, I figured out the opposite to love. And it will surprise you. The opposite to love is ducks. How? Well, there are 3 main ways. The first is ducks are incapable of feeling love. Much like platypuses, they share a bill. Coincidence? Yeah, definitely it's a coincidence. Come on, guys. No, ducks are completely incapable of feeling love or affection, even towards their offspring. Mother ducks, you know, they have them follow them, and you might go like, oh, that's like love or caring. No, it's not. They just have like a biological response where they want 6 ducklings following them. They can't count beyond that. They've done studies. A mother duckling can have 12 ducklings, a mother duck can have 12 ducklings follow her. And if you take 6 away, she won't give a shit. If you take 7 away, she'll bite your fucking hand off. Until you give 1 back. She really doesn't give a shit. They also, if you look at a duck's face in profile, why is that funny? It's something you do. It's very similar to a shape that some scientists have recognized and discovered and studied that causes a sense in the human brain of just like, it's like, it turns off the center of your brain that produces hormones associated with love. They didn't, like, they've used this shape in studies to make people who have like this, like, there are some people who have like issues where they like fall in love with someone like immediately, heavily, but like a bit too much, like stalkerly, like we're going to die together, like I'm going to sew your flesh into my flesh so we'll never be alone, and I'm going to die of infection because I definitely didn't disinfect the needle. Those type of people. And they've found that using this shape can help them not fall in love constantly. The third way, the third reason I know ducks are the opposite to love. I was on a date with this girl I had was quite strong feelings for. I wouldn't call it love because it was like only the third date, but it's me, so I was like really close to falling in love. And like, we hadn't like seen each other a lot in person, but we'd hung out a lot over the internet, and that's why I knew I liked her because we didn't have to see each other in person to spend time together because that's fucking exhausting for me. So I was in the park with her. And this is a really cool idea for a date, and you can steal it. I had gone there early and dug a hole and placed like a picnic basket inside it, covered it up, and hidden a shovel in a tree. And I know what some of you are thinking, that's definitely against the rules of the park. And I looked, and there's not burying shit on those little stick figure signs. Some of the fucking clear. So we've gone to the park, I've been all like, oh look, there's freshly dug up soil, I wonder what's in there. What a convenient shovel I have found. Turns out she was really worried for a bit. And then I'm like, no, it's a picnic basket, it's not a corpse. Those are not in this park. And we sat down and we were having a really cool conversation and we were getting to know each other. And I'm like, oh, this is it, I think I'm about to say it. And then suddenly a duck appears. And it just sort of waddles up and it quacks. And we both look at it. And I sort of just go, oh, it's a duck. And I look back at her and I'm like, I'm not in love with this person. Which is really weird for me because I am still in love with the person I had a crush on in primary school. Because I'm real dumb. I don't want to be. I'm still in love with the person I had a crush on in high school. I still have dreams about her. Which, like, I try not to, but, like, my brain's just like, hey, it's been 6 months, you know what? Bam! Fuck you. And I look at her and I'm like, what the fuck? And she looks at me and I can sort of see the same thing happening in her head. And then I'm like, what's going on? And I look down at the duck and it winks at me. And I'm like, you motherfucker. And it flees into the river. I did encounter this duck again, and I successfully vanquished my foe. He's frozen in the Franz Josef Glacier, and there he will remain for all time, unless we have global warming. So like 6 more months tops. That's gonna be a whole thing. Little known fact. The 12th king of Hungary wasn't confused, yeah. The 11th king of Hungary died and named his son his successor. Some people, like the sort of a horrible history will tell you that his son was deathly afraid of the number 12 because he on his 12th birthday, he almost died 12 times, and so he was now terribly afraid of the number 12. The truth was a lot more complicated. His father was assassinated while he was on a diplomatic mission, as the Ottoman Empire was threatening their territory, and so he was trying to get their allies, and he needed time. So he told the ministers who wanted him to come back, become king, and surrender that, no, I don't like number 12, get rid of it. So they spent a lot of time getting rid of the number 12. He came back to the capital, was declared king, and used his allies and his influence to able to fight off the Ottomans and save his kingdom. And then he died on his 21st birthday. Fucking loser. Just going to take another drink of this instead. Yeah, no, it's still a mistake. Just like me. My mum told me that. She was just like, no, I still love you just as much. But I was on medication that stopped the pill working. And I'm like, oh yay! My existence is even more meaningless than most people's. So I want to tell you guys this story. It's another story. I'm really good at telling stories. This story takes place in 2015. I had just moved back in with my mum because reasons we'll get into quite soon. It was in the middle of that massive drought we had. It was like average 3% humidity and like 6 milliliters of precipitous rainfall over like the past 8 months, which is really bad. You know what? We need to go back a bit more. I need to tell you guys another thing first. So I have what I like to call, I don't like to refer to them as my many mental illnesses. I like to think of them as my mental accoutrement. And one of the big ones is I have dissociative episodes where my brain will convince me of something and I won't be able to logically disprove it no matter what. The best way I can sort of describe it is, you know when you get that feeling like you hear noises in the middle of the night and you think that someone might be in your house, and like either you convince yourself that there's no one there or you go and check and there's no one there and it's fine, right? So for me it's, there's someone in my house. I go and check, can't find anyone, fuck, it's ninjas. There's ninjas in the house. And then I burn down the house. After 5 houses, I started taking medication for it. I also have had issues with eating disorders in the past. Yeah, I know what you're thinking. This fine specimen of milk-drenched ham? Yeah, no, even people like me can, throw up after meals. It's something I had happen in like my mid-20s, and none of the PSAs or anything or information on the internet really prepares you for developing an eating disorder in your mid-20s as a guy. Probably not even as a woman, because like all the advice I found was for like teenagers dealing with bullying. Which, like, it's probably good advice to stop talking to Tiffany if she comments on your weight for the 3rd time in a day. But, like, that's not fucking helpful. I already cut Tiffany out of my life. So that's something I've been dealing with on and off for the past while. Okay, back into the story. I've just moved back in with my mum. It's the middle of the drought, 2015, precipitous rain, fuck that word. Rainfall average of 6 milliliters. No, I need to go back one more time. It's not a big jump this time. So in the beginning, there was nothing. Actually, quick show of hands. How many of you are familiar with the Māori creation myth? Right. Decent amount of people, more than I would have gathered, considering how white the audience is. So the Māori creation myth is basically, in the beginning there was Papatūānuku and Ranginui, the Earth Mother and the Sky Father, and they were clutched in such a tight embrace that their children could not walk upon the land without like crouching because like they were like maybe constantly fighting And like, so they got really sick of it and tried to push them apart, but they couldn't because the children were shit. Until like, Tani Mahuna was sort of like, I'm gonna invent trees. Yeah. And not that the trees will push them apart, I bet. And his brothers were all like, what? I'm the god of war and I can't push them apart. How is a tree gonna do it? And he's just like, just fucking watch. That's making trees. So he planted the trees and they sprung up all over Pakatoa and they pushed the sky up, and they were forever separated by these little bastard trees, and like what might be the biggest cock block of all time, just like inventing trees to keep your parents apart. And like so that's why it rains. It's like running away, like crying because he can't be with his beloved ground. They're like, I mean, like we're gonna fuck it up enough that there's not gonna be any trees left soon. So 5 more years. Cool. Put that out of the way. We're back into it's 2015. It's Canterbury. Droughts. I'm living with my mum. 6 milliliters of rain. Awesome. Okay. So I have this weird thing where I'm incredibly pessimistic, narcissistic, kind of optimistic, but also apathetic at the same time. So everything's my fault. There's not really anything I can do about it, but if there was, I wouldn't anyway. And it's a sort of weird mix of feelings that lead me. I was out walking my dog. She's like the size of one of my feet. It's fucking ridiculous. And people give me looks while I'm walking here, and I'm like, yeah, well, you expect to have a big dog? Big dogs are fucking scary, so I have this small one. Seriously, terrified of big dogs. And so I'm walking the dog, and I see this tree, and I just look at it, and I know this tree is one of the specific trees keeping the sky from the earth. I just know it. I also know that if I throw up on this tree, it'll rain. These are facts I'm now aware of, just all of a sudden. And I'm looking at the tree, and there's part of my brain going, that's fucking stupid. Fortunately, it's not a very loud part of my brain. And so I have this moment, and I'm like, okay, just think about this logically, okay? I'm convinced of this thing, and I know it's probably not true, but I'm not going to be able to get it out of my head. I look at the weather forecast for the next week, completely like dry, sunny days, and I'm like, okay, I'm going to try it, it's not going to work, we're going to be fine. So I'm going to call it thunder chundering from now on, because it sounds better than throwing up. So I thunder chunder upon the bastard tree. And I walk home and I'm just like, it's not going to work and I'm going to be fine. Yeah, mental illness, beat it. So the next day, the first time in 9 months, it rained a lot. And I sat there and there was a large part of my brain going, oh no! And a very louder part of my brain going, oh yeah! And I'm like, no, we will test this empirically. I will not throw up on it on these days, I'll throw up on it on these days. And over the course of 2 weeks, I tested this hypothesis, and unfortunately, for my mental well-being, the lining of my stomach and my teeth, it rained every fucking day I threw up on that tree. Up to 3 weeks later, I am on what I like to call a pre-date. It's the sort of thing that happens, like, I assume before you go on a regular date, I don't know what's going to transition to that for me. But like, when you're like, do you want to go out on a date with me? And the person goes, oh, how about we just go for coffee instead? So I was on this pre-date with this person that I really liked. And she said, so what do you do for a living? And usually I tell the truth, which is, the government pays me not to kill myself. Not particularly well. Not really. But this time I'm just like, wait, that's not the truth anymore. And so I go, I control the weather. Naturally, she had some follow-up questions. What? I thunder chunder upon the bastard trees and it brings the rain. It was at this moment she went. And I had an epiphany sitting there alone in a coffee shop, drinking my iced chocolate. I don't drink coffee. I'm not an adult. And I was just sort of like, I don't think Rangi Nui makes it rain when I thunder chunder upon bastard trees. I think I make it rain. I am not conjuring the will of a god. I am a god. So fear my capricious wrath. Unfortunately, further testing has indicated that not any other fluids do anything else unless I bleed on food, in which case it hails. That's not relevant at the moment. Little known fact. Edible gold can make you infertile. Yes. So there is a specific property of edible gold that sometimes makes it bind to your reproductive organs. For women, this isn't really a problem because you shed the uterine lining once a month usually, unless you're taking preventative measures, in which case you're probably not worried about having kids and it's fine. You just might need some gold the next time you have a period. It's like fucking metal. But for guys, it sometimes binds to the testes, and because we don't shed those, that's problematic. Yeah, so don't eat gold, you fucking idiots. So I want to talk about a theory I had a while back. Though this again requires a bit of backstory. I was talking to my friend on the online, because I hate dealing with people in person. And I'm just like, hey, I want to talk to you about something. And he's like, is it about your testicles again? And I'm like, no. I mean, sort of. My testicles, they don't come up a lot in conversation, but probably more than people's testicles should. Because one of mine just sometimes goes on a wander. Just goes away for a bit. It's like an actual condition. Human sex organs are very poorly designed. Just I've been told uterus is just a nightmare. I have no experience, but everyone I've talked to about this is no, fuck them. But don't actually try to fuck them. But testicles are hugely bad designed because they hang out the outside of your body. They're literally the most sensitive thing on a male. They're not protected at all because they need to be cool because the internal body temperature of a human would kill them. But also, there's nothing stopping them from just floating up into your abdominal cavity where they will die. This is such good design. Oh, this is fucking evolution at work. And usually when one of them goes up, sometimes it'll come down on its own. Sometimes you'll require surgery and to if it's savable, stitch it to the scrotum to stop happening again. Yeah, right? But so I have this issue where it just goes away. I'm pretty sure it's not into my abdominal cavity because sometimes it comes back with souvenirs. I woke up once and there was a sombrero on my testicles. I was like, what the fuck, why are you tanned? Anyway, so they do come up a bit in conversation. And I was telling my friend about this and I'm just like, because I did this thing where I crowdsourced an opinion once from a comedy night. Because I was worried my voice was annoying and I want to be a stand-up comic and I feel like if your voice is annoying, you have to do a specific type of annoying voice comedy, and that's just kind of shit. So I asked, and everyone was kind of like, no, your voice is fine. I was just like, fuck yes. Self-esteem from a crowd, this isn't dangerous at all. And I told my therapist about it, and they were like, no, it's very dangerous and you shouldn't do it. And I was just like, You're really not making me want to dig you up. Don't worry, I left a note, okay, in case the police find the body. You know, it will lead them on a series of confusing and escalating adventures. You know, this is a fun little thing for them. Fun little adventure. I actually told my friend this story the second night, because sometimes I bounce comedy bits off him without telling him about them. Because I'm a real good friend. And he's just like, it's kind of messed up to keep talking about murdering women in your bits. And I'm like, I don't think I ever mentioned the gender of any of my therapists on purpose because then it makes them identifiable. And like, you know, I don't want to give police evidence. And like, I checked because I record all our conversations, like a good friend, so that if he ever says something to me, I can prove that I'm right. In this case, I was. So like, I was curious. And it was because I mentioned therapist, and I did like this informal survey of my friends, where I was just like checking what like they thought the gender of the people in my stories were. And it turns out if I say doctor or like reference a medical doctor, they assume male, and if it's therapist or something like counselor, they assume female. And I was just like, oh, that's interesting, and maybe someone should write like a paper on it or something. And so like I emailed that to staff, and they're like, no, we're not going to just write articles based on thoughts you had. Again, why have you made another email if you're blocking this one as well? I made another email. It's really fucking easy. They should just not reply to me. I wouldn't get the satisfaction. Idiots. So in telling them the story, it was actually a theory I had. Oh, you know what? I'm gonna spice this bit up. We're gonna do like a bit of mentalism. Yeah, fucking mentalism. You guys ready for that? Yeah. Yeah, it's fake. Just like hypnosis. Because if hypnosis was real, it would be illegal. Alright, so I'm just going to do something really quick. I'm going to write down an answer to a question I'm going to ask someone at the end of this set. Fucking entertaining comedy. Back in my Okay, so I was talking to Mike about this theory. And he was just like, that's weird, man. You shouldn't have told me about that. You shouldn't tell anyone about that. And I was just like, you know what? It kind of made a good pickup line. And he was just like, you're not listening to me at all, are you? I only know about those last bits because I listened back to the tape. So I have this theory. Okay. Can we get the highest lights up, Big Daddy Mike? That's his name, by the way. If you ever want to talk to him. Just trying to find someone I don't know, like, well, to ask this to. You like me not me person. Sorry. Okay. So I want you to imagine that it's after the show, you're at the bar, you're kind of feeling vaguely confused and upset because of the end of the show. It'll make sense once we get there. And I come up to you and I'm just like, hi. And you're just kind of like, oh, but you're a polite person, so you say hi back. And I'm just like, so I have this theory about something, and I was wondering if you could help me test the hypothesis. And you're like, what? And I'm just like, okay, so I'm pretty sure I'm infertile. Do you want to help me test it out? And your answer would be? Alright, I'm doing that last slide down now. Okay. Cool. Just gonna have a quick look at the time and ignore the other pieces of paper I pulled out with other answers on them. Dope. Alright, so, little known fact. For a brief period in the 60s, Belgium stopped being a country. I know, right? So, there was this issue with corruption in their parliament where it got to the point where basically only one person from each of the three major parties needed to be represented in parliament, and there was a 6-month period where only 3 people were in attendance. These 3 people decided they were sick of this shit and wrote up papers to disillusion Belgium as a country. They sent letters informing the other members of their parties who were just sort of on holiday. And for the final vote, only 3 of them attended. And by a landslide vote of 160 to 0, Belgium stopped being a country. Of course, the papers reported on this the next day, and everyone else decided, no, that's ridiculous, we're still a country. Those 3 people didn't get re-elected, but everyone else did. I think one of them is actually serving on the EU and anti-corruption sort of task force now, so he's doing all right. One of the other 2 committed suicide, and the other one disappeared into the dark web. Dark web. Cool. So, I was on the road the other day. Not on the road, just standing on the footpath. I don't stand in roads anymore since I started taking my meds. And I was sort of standing at a bus stop, and these people yelled at me from a car. I couldn't make out what they said, but it started with F and then A, but the last letter was either a G or a T. It changes depending on how drunk they are. And I was just like, oh yeah, classic Christchurch people, fucking represent. And these 2 guys next to me, I talked to them a little bit before because one of them was from the culture from Hong Kong. And they started talking and they seemed to assume that they were yelling at them, like it was some sort of racist slur. Like, no, I'm pretty sure the boy racists in Christchurch are more fat-phobic than they are racist. And we had a little bit of debate back and forth, and I'm like, okay, look, they pulled into that parking lot up there. I'm going to go ask them, and I'll get back to you. So I went and asked them. And they're just like, we didn't see any slur for Asian people. We only saw your fat ass. And then I realized it wasn't the fact that they were more fat-phobic than they were racist, they just didn't see them first. I realized that as they were beating me up. So after they left, I was sort of stumbling around with a concussion or whatever. I saw this our bar and I was like, oh, I'll get a drink because that's a good thing to take the edge off a concussion. Oh no, so this sort of odd symbol, and I recognised that from somewhere. It was like the sign above the bar, and I was like, oh, whatever. So I went inside the bar, and I get a drink, and someone comes up to, this woman comes up to the bar, and I was looking around before, and it didn't seem like she was with anyone, she was ordering a drink, and I'm like, cool, I'll be that guy. And I'm just like, hi. She looks over and is like, hi. I'm like, I have this theory. And while I'm talking to her, this other guy comes up, and he's just like, what the fuck are you doing? And I'm like, excuse me? And he's like, this is my girlfriend. And I'm like, oh, I didn't realize that. I'll get out of your way. And it was at this minute he was like clearly trying to get a fight. It was this moment I realized that the symbol above the bar was also tattooed on his arm. And she was also wearing a necklace with that symbol on it. And I was like, oh, something's going on here. So I was just like, prima vision time. And so I ran through a lot of scenarios of how to get out of this using my prima vision. You know, eagle-eyed cherries playing Sex Mate. And then I figure out what's going on because I saw a figure in the back corner near the exit. And it took off and I'm just like, oh, so that's how it is. So, as I come back to myself, I'm like, I know how to get out of this. And I turn to the guy and I'm like, hey, so I have a theory. And he's like, what? And I'm just like, I'm pretty sure I'm infertile. Do you want to help me test it out? And then he hits me. But it turns out it was my twin brother Horatio the entire time. I'm out the back door chasing the thing out. Fucking. And do you know what I see? Waddling down the footpath. The fucking duck. Global warming. He's out. And he's taken off. And I chase after him. I'm just like, I'm getting you this time. And he turns around and he winks again. Fucking shit. And so I finally catch up to this duck. But he catches me off guard, and I slip and I fall, and I crack my head open on the ground, and my blood like spurts from my head, it hits a fern, and suddenly it starts hailing. And I realize, oh, that's bad for you. Because little known fact, ducks find it very difficult to walk on hail. So I was able to catch up with him. Except when he turns around and decides it's fight to the death. But he makes one fatal error. He comes after my legs, and I can't see him anymore. So I start kicking. And I won. I vanquished my immortal foe that day. And then I went on a pre-date with the girl from the bar. Turns out killing someone's daily does not make for meet cute. We're going to wrap up quite soon. Let's come to the end of my show. Thank you all very much for coming. Just like a little bit more. If we, the shadows, have a fear, think of this in all its beauty. I fucking wrote that line. Don't trust the guy named Bill when he gives you mushrooms and takes you to a forest and says he's not going to write you it down. Fuck, I stole the 12th note from me as well. I think there's one more bit of thing we have to go through, the lie. The lie I told you. And the lie was this, that it was going to be a lie. Because this show was all definitely true. I promise. Thank you and good night.
We're going to take a short break. We're going to set up for the next act, which is Tim Mack. If you don't already have a ticket, you can purchase one at the door. Thank you.